Hey Frequency fam, we are live from Utah here in RCC's home lab base and going live with Britt Galvin today. So I'll give everybody just a couple moments to get going. Today's topic is going to be how cannabinoids stand to impact COVID. So we're going for it today. We're going to say all the things that normally you shouldn't say on a platform like this. We'll see what happens. I don't think we can get any more banned than what we are now. I think less than 1% of people get to see our content. So I know Britt's gone through the same exact thing. All right, so Britt has requested to join. Let me get her on here and we'll get this show on the road. Uh-oh, is it taking away your request to join? Okay. Hey, Nurse Nicolasa. Frequency fam. Hey, Kara. All right. Yes, please, everybody.
Right.
Share this live with everyone you know. We're going to need all the help we can get to get the word out there because our page and Rick's page is significantly. Actually, let me move this up a little bit so that we see.
Can you see me?
I can
Hi.
see your beautiful face. Yes. Okay, just making sure.
Oh, thanks.
Right.
You think this looks good? This is
Now that we
I don't
have
know
both
what
of our
is.
pictures on here, we have to readjust. So otherwise, you know, the decapitated look isn't a good one. So let's go with a little bit further back. All right. Well, welcome back to our page, Britt. Thank you so much for taking the time to link up with us today. You know, we're going to talk about cannabinoids and also a couple of things which we find here at Root Cause Clinic have been really helpful for those of you who are weathering what I have coined, you know, spike protein associated illness. So, you know, the ramifications of COVID are more than just, you know, what happens at the time, or even if it ends up having a very detrimental effect up into including death. There is, you know, the long hauler syndrome. There are those of you who have went on to have the inoculations for COVID. And of course, you know, Brittany's infamous story there, which we're going to get into. And the ramifications there. So, you know, the spike protein in many different ways, shapes, and forms has been associated with, you know, long-term effects. And at the clinic, we have seen many of you in this population. Now, what caught my eye is how many times I kept seeing, you know, cannabinoids and Nuvita come up on these type of client or patient demographic scans. And so it really sent me down the rabbit hole, as I do, to say, okay, here's a very similar type of cases, and here's the thing that I keep seeing come up. What's the pattern? What does research really say to support that? And I went down that rabbit hole and I saw that there is research which actually shows that cannabinoids, and in this case, it's actually the CBD and not the THC, which shows to have the ability, not just for those of you concerned not to catch COVID, but those of you who have already went through and weathered some of these issues, it can be shown to influence the way that the genetic expression of genes surrounding things like inflammation, a lot of the other, you know, disorder pathologies that have developed thereon, go on to actually make the decisions that they do. One of the more profound pieces of literature that I came across, and we posted some of this material, we'll share more of this after the live as well. One of the more profound things that I saw is that while that they were able to detect that these, you know, changes in associations of CBD as it pertains to what I've just mentioned were detectable for up to 10 days, that the best result was actually achieved by taking it daily. So this was pretty profound information. And of course that put, you know, you on my mind, Britt, because I remember when you started, you know, taking CBD, it was a very big kind of, you know, step forward in your healing journey. And so now at this time, why don't you kind of put the personal story behind it? I've kind of given a little bit of cliff notes as to the things that we saw from like the clinical standpoint, but how did this come on your radar to actually kind of start saying, hey, wow, this thing really is helping me and I've noticed a difference? And how did you notice a difference maybe?
Well, yeah, I'll be brief with my story because I know people can go back to a couple posts that you and I have done if they want to see the whole story, but guys, it takes forever. So cliff notes, I got it's already giving us a lot of stats. I'm going to try not to say the words. I'm sorry if I do, but I got the that starts with an M. I got 2 of them. I did not want them. I was forced by a previous employer. And we'll get into the forced conversation a different day too. I was told basically I couldn't work if I didn't do it, same as everybody else. After the second one, I had a reaction after the first. I did not correlate it whatsoever. It started as GI upset, and not just a little bit upset. I'm talking like chronic diarrhea, chronic, chronic upset. I mean, I think when I first reached out to you, I was like, out of everything, you need to fix my stomach and my brain. Of course, they're connected. After the second one, I had to call 911. I think it was 13 days after, and landed in 4 different hospitals until I was actually heard. This was in June of 2021. There had not been anybody out there really talking about any reactions whatsoever. I was actually told that it was impossible I could get reactions, even though I knew that's not the case. I didn't really think, how bad it could be. I ended up with several diagnoses, the most serious being Guillain-Barré syndrome. With the Guillain-Barré came postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, otherwise known as POTS, pericarditis of the heart, gastroparesis, memory loss, 6 or 7 lesions on the brain, a pineal cyst. Gosh, I don't know. There's been so much, but those were the main ones in the very beginning. It's been a couple years now, 2.5 years. And when it first happened, I had tried CBD in the past because I actually just had spine surgery. If you see my little, I wasn't eaten by a shark. I've had spine surgery several times, and this was my 4th one, my 2nd fusion. And so I've had chronic pain in the past. I also have I had only one autoimmune. Now I have 6, but I had only one autoimmune prior to the inoculations, which is rheumatoid arthritis, which is mainly why I was so afraid to get the inoculation in the first place. I knew what my body, I was in remission. I had already been on low dose chemotherapy before. I had already tried CBD before. I had tried high dose THC. I had tried everything, and I was actually in remission at the time of the inoculation. So for me, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So after I did it and everything happened, and I ended up in the hospital, a CBD company reached out to me, and that would be Nuvita. And I didn't really know much. I just knew that I tried it before for pain and that it didn't really do much for me. And I was like kind of in a position of, I was paralyzed at the moment. I was urinating on myself. I could not walk. I could not, I was being told I could be on a ventilator at any moment if it didn't get better. I was freaking out. I was in a lot of pain that people didn't understand. The doctors that were gaslighting me were taking away my pain medications left and right. I mean, it was a literal war between the doctors that were treating me on the daily up on I think it was on the 2nd floor, and the ER doctors who had originally admitted me, because the ER doctors knew and recognized what was wrong, but the attending doctors were not willing to admit it. So when the CBD company reached out to me, I was like, you know what? She gave me a little bit of information, not near as much as you have taught me over the years. It was just in the beginning, or maybe she did. I don't know. I was just in this mindset. When you were first injured, you are in this mindset of fix me now. Fix me now. You don't realize that it's a journey. You don't realize that it's daily, treatment that you need. You don't realize all the detoxes that you need. You just think, okay, I need something to fix me right now. So when she reached out to me, I was like, okay, send me whatever you have. And it came to me while I was still in the hospital, and I literally just started taking everything she sent me. And it was the only thing I had for pain relief. It was literally the only thing. At the time, I was thinking that it was only for pain relief. I didn't even know the health benefits that it would have. I think when it clicked in my mind how serious this treatment was for me, was when you had done a scan. And I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do remember this.
Came up for you, yeah.
Yeah, well, first it came up, you found that I had lesions in my brain prior to the doctors finding it. It was you who found it. And I remember it came up in my scan, cannabinoids or something did. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember you mentioning it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting because I'm taking CBD. And you're like, continue to take it. You put me on the entire protocol. And the next scan you did, you were like, okay, that's completely cleared. We've moved on. And I'm like, huh? What? It was like a section of my body. And I think it was my liver detoxing of what was, remember, my liver enzymes were way up.
And that's a good point, Britt, because, symptoms look different on different people because the spike protein has an affinity, for a specific receptor. And so we start looking at the way that the ACE receptor, and of course the relationship between, ACE and ACE2 work in the body. So, we come into this world genetically a little bit different, and there might be some of us who have a little bit more of these receptors in the gut. Some of us may have less. That kind of is the pattern that we're seeing at the clinic, where, the individuals that might get more of those, gastroparesis and different types of intestinal type of symptoms versus those that might get more of the dysphagia, vagal tone, neurological, versus those that get the more respiratory, with the ACE receptors, they're going to be more targeting of those tissues. That is just something that varies based on how you are designed. And so, going by the symptom only is a little bit misleading, right? Because that may be a different makeup, which has created that person to have the different type of symptoms that they have. And we did see that. And if you recall, when we were looking at that data, I had told you, your gut is going to be the next place to get hit because of what we saw. And sure enough, that next month later, you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what's happening, right?
Yeah, you called it. I mean, months in advance, you called it. None of my other doctors were talking about it whatsoever. They couldn't help me. They were trying. I mean, I was on 13 medications when you came along. And one of them, pain medicine and two or three different heart medications. I don't remember how many there were. The stuff for the gut, they couldn't even touch it. They did an endoscopy, a colonoscopy. They did biopsies, and they found absolutely nothing. Yet I couldn't even drink water without, running to the bathroom. And it was worse than chronic. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of crazy how full circle it has come. And the one thing I have done the entire time is stayed on the CBD every day, day in and day out. I have not stopped.
And so one of the things that we saw in going through some of this literature is that, this ACE2 receptor, people tend to kind of get that, okay, there's this virus. It can dock on this receptor. It can make me sick. I have most of these receptors in certain tissues, right? The lungs, there's definitely, a lot in the gastrointestinal tract, as we've talked about. But I think where people kind of finally get that disconnect after that is not realizing that just because you don't have an active infection anymore at that time, doesn't mean that this spike protein, the protein, can't still be potentially lodged in that receptor. And just even those fragments can continue to set off an inflammatory response, right? And this can happen in long haulers cases that we've seen. They're not actively sick, right, with this virus anymore, but they still have symptomology and they're still firing inflammation off accordingly. The spike protein is still interfering with the function. And we see this also in inoculation injuries where this synthetic, if you will, instruction is there, and it's also mitigating the expression of that cell or the way it's able to perform in those functions. And so one of the things that we see with the CBD, it's not just, again, protecting the way that we would ourselves to kind of amp our immune system up to not get COVID. But if you've already kind of come onto that point where that you have some of these issues, it might be able to influence, because there's evidence, right, research that is showing that the genetic expression, various genes are measured to have actually been downgraded, which were excessively, mobilized into inflammation. And so by taking a cannabinoid that could do that, it can help to shut off some of what we've been able to see as kind of the defining hallmarks of what creates long haulers to begin with. Not to mention that there's actually also evidence that shows it might be able to degrade the spike protein itself, really kind of going in and helping to erode or get rid of what it was that kind of triggered this to begin with. So there was just so many angles that I just thought, wow, how didn't I come across this earlier? And it was research from 2022, again, published research, right, that's out there, but it's not getting publicity. Why do you think that might be, right? That's a whole other conversation. That's a conversation that is,
pharma.
Exactly. But so that was definitely, one of the things
that they wanted me on.
There's a reason why we don't get information. That's a good point, because a lot of times people say, well, if this is true, then we would have this and everybody would know about this, etc. And I say, well, would we? Because you have to ask, who stands to benefit and who stands to lose whenever such things come out, right? There's clean energy already. It's just these $300 million patents have already been purchased by energy conglomerates because they don't want that to come out, right? So that's again a whole other conversation. But in this case, I wanted to do this live because this was some research that I thought was very readily accessible. Not many people who are going through these journeys are able to necessarily afford to work with Root Cause Clinic. We understand that. Even in just their trials to try to get some relief in the process, the funds are not growing on a tree, right? And so this is a very difficult journey to maintain. And seeing something like CBD that could be, a very accessible means of helping to stalemate some of the advancements of what we see with long haulers and or inoculation injury, or even help, dare I say, to turn it the other way, in the other direction, reverse it. I wanted this to be a public message. We actually did design a package kind of built around being inspired by you, Britt, and your journey, and being so brave to put it all out there. Rather than asking people if they've got their booster, right? We're asking if they've gotten their Brit booster, which of course would be, cannabinoids or CBD. So we have the whole entire Nuvita line in the system. We don't have to guess what might be a fit. You can actually get screened with RCC. And right now we do have a package that we made affordable, not only to actually get a protocol written and have a testing experience with RCC. This would actually be, upwards of $1,000 to do so with the provider. And we would only ever do this in an ongoing relationship. We did kind of make a special package for your viewers, our viewers, anybody who's watching this today. And so for just $329, you can actually get scanned, have the same scan experience that you did. And there will be a provider that will look over this data, create a custom protocol for you, which would include if you have goals toward inoculation injury, if there's concerns of long haulers, and maybe even none of this is a concern and you're just interested in getting this done, you will get a Nuvita scan complimentary. So we will run you against the entire line. Any products that are a fit for you will come up. So let's say that the CBN is something that's going to be more advantageous for you than the CBD. This is a great way to be able to know what to start with right off the bat, so that the funds can really make sure that they're maximized to getting you something that's a fit for you. So anybody who might be interested in this particular offer, we have this, it's right available on the shop. You don't even need, a special link. You just go there and you can shop. And you'll be able to kind of hit both birds with the same stone, if you will. So we just wanted to put that out there. It's our Brit boosted, Are You Brit boosted package. Don't you?
I really love that. I mean, I really do, because it's so often. I'm so sorry that my daughter is in here. Can you please go? I'm sorry. This is real life. it's 5 p.m. here, so I'm so sorry. I know you're somewhere. It's 2 o'clock where you are, right? 2:30.
Yes, Mountain Time. Almost 3. Yeah.
So sorry. But most of my followers are injured or know somebody that is injured. And the biggest question I get is, well, 2 things. If they're talking about Nuvita, the biggest question I get is, which one's for me? And I can tell off of my experience, based off of what I've been through, what the 3,000 have ordered, who you have used my code. I can tell you what they have told me, but I'm not in the medical side of it. So I don't really know how it connects to specific people, specific gene codes, specific things. This is really incredible for me. I'm really glad that you're doing this, because the other question I always get is, what can I do to stop it? How can I help this person? Or how can I help myself? Or I'm so tired. I feel like I'm fading away. And it's like, I don't really know which direction to send them. So I really like this, because I feel like this is an easy scan they can do. I've done this kit myself, guys, like 4 or 5 times. I actually just sent you another kit this morning, a home one. So you'll be getting it in a few days, but it really does come back so detailed. I mean, I'm telling you, like, if you weren't here in the beginning of this call and you just caught on, Veronica in Root Cause Clinic found the lesions in my brain before the doctors did. Like, literally cured my GI symptoms. Like, they told me specifically what to take and how to take it and which cannabinoids to take. And there's a reason I'm on the protocol that I'm on, and it's literally because of you. So I really like this experience. I like this opportunity that you're giving, and I'm so grateful, because there are so many people who need it. Thank you. I didn't know you were doing that. Thank you so much.
Yes. So it's a Are You Brit boosted package. You can just, head on to Root Cause Clinic, and then there's a member site. You just can sign up for free membership and get access to our store, where you can shop, hundreds of products. But we do have that actually listed right there, front and center, the Are You Boosted Brit package, where you can get what we said, scan experience, a custom protocol that's going to be written for you, as well as the Nuvita scan. So, if you're looking to try to kind of get the ability to do what Brit did, but maybe not necessarily able to afford that full package right now, we tried to really package that into something that is affordable as such. So I think we've accomplished kind of everything we set out to today, Britt. I know you're really busy, and so thank you for taking the time to be able to speak to our audience, and vice versa here. So any last words or things at all that we might want to share with everybody today?
I'm just blown away. It's been 2.5 years. I mean, we're going on 3. I'm blown away at the progress I've made. And if you follow me, you know, those of you watching who follow me, I am very honest and transparent with my story. If you don't follow me already, please do. I'm there. I'm there to support other people. But the one thing that I harp on is consistency in your healing journey, that it's okay to have setbacks. It's going to happen. It's called a journey. It's not a race. It's not going to be one fix, fixes all. I think that wasting money on 10 different things, not knowing which direction to go, is a lot more harmful than doing something like this, doing something like I did with you, which is, the kit and the scan, and coming back and having a clear direction and a plan of action to get yourself better. I'm very transparent with the fact that I'm still not better 100%, but we are getting me there. You have me on a new protocol right now, actually, with 4 different, new things. You didn't mention that one. I think you were going to tell everybody about the.
Oh yeah. So some peptides and some particular products that we've really seen also, tend to come up. We do have what are called the stem cell activators. They are not actual stem cells, fetal collected, etc. They are plant-based peptides, and what they'll do is they'll help your own tissues to decide what proteins to print. So one of the big things that we see after exposure to COVID, where we get down that kind of long haulers route, and or where we're inoculation injured, is the homeostasis of what the body has chosen, what the genes have said, this is the kind of proteins that we make. We're going to make collagen, for example, versus we're going to make fibrin, which is a scar tissue. That is something that doesn't necessarily reset after that kind of acute trauma, and so it might still keep going on to continue printing, let's just say, scar tissue, right? Well, there's a time and a place for the scar tissue, but that time and place is not all the time. And so what these do is kind of help to put the body back into that state where it says, hey, like, you missed the memo, but let's go back to printing the proteins this way. I want to see more of X, Y, Z. So it really encourages the body to kind of go back to a homeostatic point rather than try to tug a war and fight with it about stopping certain processes. It kind of encourages it to go back to center. So the one that we gave you, Britt, is actually one for the nervous system. And, being somebody that actually went through Guillain-Barré, still continues to make sure they have to stay on top of things so that that is not going to be something that continues to spiral, and advance and or worsen. This is precisely, the kind of product that can help the body to rectify on its own. This is my favorite entire line out there. Medics for Life, Co-Gardens, etc. They make some fabulous products. I've literally seen people who have had cardiac events, that they have actually, from Western medicine, have results show that their heart is better now after this, after these heart events. I'm talking very serious coronary events, and their heart is now stronger and better than it was prior after taking these particular stem cell activators. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. We can put some links up after as well. And also some of the peptides. So for those of you who are struggling, with more of the immune system oriented issues, like Britt mentioned, she started with 1 autoimmune disease. Now you're up to 6 because of this. So this just went, with the immune system predisposition, this was just an area that it all went south for you. So maybe, the neurological isn't as much where it's at. The other things that I recommend, there is a peptide from Integrative Peptides, which we stock, Thymogen Alpha. This is really great at helping the immune system, the thymus, to be able to kind of go back into training, or more appropriately training the immune system, because what happens is that the thymus is actually the place where it trains, your future T cells, if you will, what is self and what is something foreign. And so only 2% of our cells pass, or should pass. They don't make the cut perfectly. That's it. They're gone. They don't get to go into circulation and do the job. If they show when they're tested, hey, you're attacking a muscle cell, you're attacking a lung cell, that's it. Out they go. During, inoculation injury, or those who are dealing with long haulers, the thymus is not able to do this job as it should. And unfortunately, we're passing, kind of much like the education system in America now, we're passing, these cells that don't pass the test, and then they go on. And it's like, I failed in the muscle and the lung cell department, but not a big deal. I passed the most of it, right? Well, not a big deal unless we're talking this is your lung cell or your nervous system, etc. And so this helps to really allow the thymus to go back to being a lot stricter, making sure that the cells that are passing through are in fact able to identify self versus the foreign environment, and not make a mistake and create these autoimmune or autoimmune type patterns of inflammation. So Thymogen Alpha is one of my absolute favorites for dealing with that. Lastly, if you are having some of these orthostatic issues, such as what Britt mentioned, autonomic function, I really like using the, yes. So the other one we sent you to, I believe, was the T-Frag. And so the TB4 frag, this one is really great for also helping with the nervous system, but where it sinks in with the autonomic system. And so if you've got a lot of those kind of orthostatic dysregulations, if you're even having issues in the tissues, like you've mentioned, a long history of pain, the hard tissues such as the tendons, the ligaments, etc., this is amazing to help with rebuilding them and allowing you to have a minimal scar tissue pattern. So for example, after your surgery, this was something I so wanted you to have to make sure that when your body's healing, it's trying to heal with the tissue that's the most desirable tissue, not as much scar type of tissue and more just actual tissue that is reflective of, you know, healthy normal pattern tissue. So, you know, there's different ways that we're all affected by the spike protein. That's because we're all different, and that's why there's different solutions. And that's what we offer here at Root Cause Clinic, is a way to kind of look and see based on the testing. And for those of you who are interested in maybe adding cannabinoids, which is, you know, I think a very accessible reach for many people, we have the scan again that can help take the guesswork out of that. You can find your Nuvita affiliate to help direct you as far as from there how to go ahead and get started. But we can take the guesswork out of where to get started. So make sure you take advantage of that $329 promotion. It will only be active this week. If you haven't, you know, got your Brit boost, make sure that you do. Right? We're setting a new trend over here. We're turning over the boosters du jour, and we're getting the Brit booster. So if you haven't been boosted till you've been Brit boosted.
I love it. It sounds scary. I love the Brit booster. Is there a certain code that they have to enter? Because this is huge for my following. I mean, guys, this is not only to help you see which cannabinoid is good for your body and your genetic makeup and what you're going through, but the scan is also, correct me if I'm wrong, the scan is also going to tell them exactly what you told me the first time around, right?
Yes. So you'll be able to see that.
What is wrong.
Yeah, so for example, somebody might be having symptoms that they believe, you know, are oriented with the heart. And some people may directly have the pericarditis and it could be an issue there, but other people may be just simply feeling the symptoms in the heart, but it actually might be something that's going on from within the nervous system, right? And the heart's just the whipping boy that's getting the lash. Well, if you're taking a pericarditis oriented therapy or approach and you're not moving the needle or getting better, then it's not the problem and the provocation, that problem's not in the same spot. And so we're able to kind of put those areas of discussion, other systems that you may not be looking at, on the table right off the bat, so that you're not there, like Britt says, going around trying 10 different things and hoping that one of them is going to work. Or maybe you try 10 different things, something does start working, and then you don't know which of the 10 things it is that works.
Right.
You start taking things out of your rotation because it's hard to sustain that financially, and then you're lost, kind of trying to figure out how to sustain your progress. So
right.
There is no code needed. I do want to just let everybody know, though, that Britt is so kind and gracious that every time we do team up and kind of do these events, she donates every single bit of, you know, whatever it is that you all sign up for to actually give back to the community. And so we actually just gave away a, experience to somebody, I think it was the other day. So she doesn't actually collect any commissions. There's not anything financially that she gains from being able to do this. She's just sharing this to help all of you and allow that to be something that might be able to, you know, change her life. As she said, it has, you know, changed hers. So, and you change lives every day by being brave enough to be out there and just, you know, continue to stand up to the trolls. I know it's not easy. I know that that's an extra burden that you don't need when you're trying to do this type of healing, but you're brave enough to do that. And I think, you know, we're grateful over here, and I think the rest of the community would probably be willing to say the same thing. So thank you, Britt, for coming on today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful. I've told you this 1,000 times, to you guys and to everybody who's given my voice a platform. I mean, I'm pretty sure there were only a couple of us out there when it started, and now there are tens of thousands of people speaking up, and it just warms my heart. It hurts my heart that so many people are hurting, but it warms my heart that so many people are feeling okay enough to talk about it. So thank you for giving people a place to talk about these things, and thank you for giving them this opportunity. I'm really excited to see how many people take advantage of this, and I'd like to know, you know, if we could do an update. You know, I don't know if people would be open to talking about it, but I would love to hear and, you know, talk to people who do take advantage of this. If you're listening to this and you choose to take advantage of it and you want to share your success, I would love to talk to you about it, because the more success we see in this type of protocol, the more people we can help.
Absolutely. I'm open to it too. That'll be our next IG Live. But
yeah.
all right, everybody. Well, thank you for attending. We'll save this on the feed. That way you can catch this later if anybody kind of joined us in the middle or, needs to join us later. But for now, we'll let Britt get on to her busy life. We'll go back to ours. It's a pleasure always connecting in this space, everybody. We'll see you next time. Make sure you go shop and look at our store. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.